This is the Capitol Rundown.
No, President Trump, we don't want you or any other king.
Well, I guess they probably owe me a lot of money for that. Probably, yeah, that's true. That's very interesting. No, I get no salary.
Sit down and negotiate. The American people are aghast. Any observer, objective observer, is aghast.
It's all straight ahead. The Capitol Rundown starts now.
Thanks for joining us. I'm Jorma Duran. From Lansing to Washington, D.C., there's always a lot happening in Michigan politics, so let's get started. Well, as the federal government shutdown continues, Michiganders are now feeling it and worrying about what's to come, especially when it involves food benefits. The Supplemental Nutritional Assistance Program, known as SNAP or food stamps, helps feed 40 million people. The U.S. Department of Agriculture oversees the program. On October 10th, the USDA sent letters to states telling them not to prepare for EBT cards to be loaded on November 1st. And on Thursday, the Michigan Department of Health and Human Services announced that the USDA instructed them to hold the November benefits. Almost 13% of Michigan households rely on those benefits. Meanwhile, Democrats on the Hill continue to call for negotiations to reopen the government, while their Republican counterparts say that's not going to happen.
They're also leveraging the shutdown to demand $1.5 trillion in wasteful spending, climate pet projects in foreign countries, and health care for illegals. But Republicans won't cave. We won't fund the waste, fraud, and the abuse that the Democrats so violently and vehemently advocate for. We won't hand your tax dollars to illegals.
That was Congresswoman Lisa McClain of Michigan speaking to reporters on Tuesday. That same day, Senate Democratic leader Chuck Schumer had this to say.
Sit down and negotiate. The American people are aghast. Any observer, objective observer, is aghast that here on this serious problem, they won't even negotiate with us. So the onus is on them to sit down. But that is why we have urged, Hakeem and I have urged Trump to sit down with us and seriously negotiate before he goes away.
The U.S. Senate, under the control of Republicans, has been holding votes to reopen the government without negotiations on Democratic priorities, and those votes continue to fail. But that's what's happening in Congress. Here in Michigan, the Rundown's Taryn Simmons spoke to people who rely on SNAP benefits every month. And some of them say they're already saving money for food in case the shutdown continues into next month.
Shannon Myers Reinhardt is one of thousands of Michiganders relying on SNAP benefits every month.
We've been on them now for about 2 years. We got them because my oldest daughter is a type 1 diabetic.
Reinhardt says her family gets a total of $816 a month and worries for what's to come next month.
Do coupon, but I have been putting money aside. I mean, we've just been pinching pennies, but it scares me to think about what if I can't and I have to choose between a bill that has to be paid in order to go and get this?
It's full for the most part right now. However, it might not be by the end of this month.
Amber Peterson lives in Hazlet and also uses SNAP. She gets $700 a month for her family of 4.
Helps generally for most of the month. We usually get a meat bundle with that, fruits and veggies and things like that they need.
Peterson is expected to receive her October benefits, but
we've had to discuss with the kids, that things may be tight and that their favorite foods they may have to, go without.
We have things like cereal, like canned vegetables.
Caitlin Cardozo with the Greater Lansing Food Bank says they've already been informed of possible delays of benefits, but wants to remind those in need that their doors are always open.
We do know from our partners at the Michigan Department of Health and Human Services that there is that potential for delays in benefits if the shutdown does continue into November.
As the shutdown continues, all Reinhardt wants to do is keep her family fed.
$100, a couple $100, even $800, that helps out greatly.
Well, up next, our Capitol correspondent will be here for you with a look at how state Republicans want to cut property taxes. We'll be right back. Now that the state budget is passed, Republicans in the Michigan legislature are turning to property taxes. The Rundown's Kirk Montgomery got the details from our Capitol correspondent Tim Skubic on that and much more.
It's time to get updated on Michigan politics, and there is nobody better than our very own Tim Skubic. Tim, now we're hearing this next big project in the State House will be about property taxes. The Speaker talking about reform, and there's even a petition circulating to get people on board with cutting those taxes. What's the latest on that?
Yeah, this is going to be an interesting story. We're going to have competing interests here. The Speaker is not trying to, or he has not said he's trying to block the petition drive, which has a more drastic property tax element to it compared to what they're looking at in the legislature, which might be a little bit different from that. But in the meantime, there is this statewide petition drive with a more drastic language going on, and so far they have collected, count them, 400,000 petition signatures, and they want to get another 2,000 to get the 6,000 to put this on the ballot in November of 2026. Now the question is, would the organizer of this petition drive stop the petition drive if the legislature did something about this vis-a-vis Mr. Hall and his pledge to do something about it? Here's what Carla Wagner told us this week. Basically, she wants to see the final product. She says you can talk all you want about passing legislation, but talking about it and doing it are two different things, and it, quote, would have to be a spectacular, quote, end quote, proposal for her to halt the petition drive. So we've got competing forces here. The good news, if you don't like your property taxes, two entities are working on it. The final product, however, remains to be seen.
Yeah. Let's talk about this ongoing debate over how to so-called, pork spending, how that should be reported. That includes naming lawmakers who want certain funds used for projects in their districts. Where do things stand on that?
Well, here's the disagreement that has emerged this week. In the apex of the debate over finishing the budget and resolving the government shutdown problem, the Speaker and others signed an agreement that they would work on this so-called transparency of how you disclose before there is a vote in the legislature where all of this pork barrel spending is going. Now, the Speaker had one time period in mind, but the Senate Democrats this week passed a bill giving people and the press 10 days. The Speaker says, whoa, wait a second, that's not enough time. The intent here is to let the public and the media and others review where the proposed pork barrel projects are going and then have a debate on whether that's a legitimate expenditure or not. The Speaker says if you do that process after the vote, a little hard to put the genie back in the bottle.
Well, just ahead, marches against the Trump administration happened across the country, including here in Michigan, and there could be more to come. That and much more is coming up next. Organizers of last week's No Kings rally say millions of people turned out nationwide to protest against the Trump administration, including here in Michigan. It came during one of the longest government shutdowns in U.S. history. Our Washington correspondent, Kristen Eskow, is here for you now with the story.
Across the country, people took to the streets to protest President Trump and his administration. Organizers with the group No Kings say more than 2,700 rallies were held nationwide.
It's very important that we all show our support for democracy and our opposition to the tyrannical efforts of the Trump administration.
No, President Trump, we don't want you or any other king to rule us.
One of the biggest was in Washington, D.C., as the federal government shutdown nears 3 weeks. Democrats want to reverse cuts Republicans made to Medicaid and extend tax credits tied to the Affordable Care Act.
I will not vote for a budget that throws millions of people off their health care just to pay for a tax cut for billionaires and corporations.
Republicans have blasted the demonstrations, arguing they're one reason why Democrats have not voted to end the shutdown. They also feel the protests don't reflect American values.
We refer to it by its more accurate description, the Hate America rally. It's becoming increasingly clear that this spectacle is the reason the Democrats have refused to reopen the government.
House Minority Leader Hakeem Jeffries pushed back against that description.
Showing up to express dissent against an out-of-control administration. That's as American as motherhood, baseball, and apple pie. What's hateful is what happened on January 6th. That was a Hate America rally.
Saturday's rallies marked the second day of No Kings protests this year after the first events were held in June. In Washington, I'm Kristen Escal.
Here in Michigan, more than 1,000 people made their voices heard at a No Kings rally on the state capitol lawn on Saturday. As they did across the country, demonstrators held signs and sang chants to show the Trump administration that the American people will push back on what protesters say are fascist policies. Protester Jake Miller was one of those speaking out against the current state of our country.
I think the main thing for me is tariffs. I don't think this man understands how tariffs works. Those prices have been passed on to us, and now it's basically becoming very not affordable to live anymore. You actually live right by an ethnic nationalities Christian church, so I do worry about them a lot. And it is very, very concerning that I have to be kind of looking out my window half the time. Is ICE going to be here? Is ICE not going to be here?
On Monday, Ezra Levin, co-executive director of Indivisible, one of the groups behind No Kings, said a third round of protests will happen at some point. Well, coming up, the president is taking a wrecking ball to the White House, literally. Those details when we return. President Donald Trump says the U.S. government could owe him as much as $230 million as reimbursement for investigations into his actions by the Justice Department. The president also said he would likely have final say over whether that payout happens. Our Washington correspondent Trevor Shirley is in D.C. with more.
The president says he believes the government owes him, quote, a lot of money, and says he would use any payout to pay for his new ballroom at the White House or donate to charity. The president's remarks came in response to a recent story by the New York Times. The Times reports that before being reelected, Donald Trump filed administrative claims against the government, seeking roughly $230 million. Those claims were related to damages the president believes he was owed following the raid on his Mar-a-Lago estate during a search for classified documents in 2022, and for a separate investigation into whether he colluded with Russia ahead of the 2016 election. On Tuesday, President Trump suggested he hasn't spoken to officials about receiving money from the government, but said any final decision would likely have to cross his desk. The Justice Department typically handles reviews for compensatory issues like these. The status of the president's legal claims is unclear. However, one of the president's personal attorneys during the Mar-a-Lago investigation, Todd Blanche, now serves as the number 2 person at the Justice Department. A Justice Department spokesman said any decision on a payout would, quote, follow the guidance of career ethics officials. On Tuesday, the president didn't deny that he believes he is still entitled to the money.
Well, I guess they probably owe me a lot of money for that. Probably, yeah, that's true. That's very interesting. No, I get no salary. I gave up my salary. It's a good salary. Not as much as these guys make, but that's okay. It's a lot of money. And I don't, as you know, I didn't take it in the first 4 years. But as far as all of the litigation, everything that's been involved, yeah, they probably owe me a lot of money. But if I get money from our country, I'll do something nice with it, like give it to charity or give it to the White House while we restore the White House.
The Mar-a-Lago investigation was dropped after President Trump was reelected, as were several other high-profile investigations the Justice Department had been pursuing. Reporting in Washington, I'm Trevor Shirley.
Well, speaking of hundreds of millions of dollars, demolition started this past week on the East Wing of the White House, the first stage in the construction of a 90,000 square foot ballroom. That comes with a price tag that has now grown to $300 million. President Trump said on social media that the ballroom won't cost taxpayers a dime because it is being privately funded by, quote, many generous patriots, great American companies, and yours truly. He also initially said no demolition would be involved, but on Monday, construction equipment began tearing down part of the White House complex. White House officials say that's because the East Wing is being modernized. By the end of the week, the building was gone. Well, still to come, we'll tell you about a special holiday observed at the State Capitol building this past week. Stay right there. Monday marked the start of this year's Diwali celebration, and at the state capitol Tuesday, there was a formal recognition of the festival from the Michigan legislature. The Rundown's Karina Pareto was there for the festivities.
Out of the millions celebrating worldwide, nearly 100 people packed the state Senate gallery for the adoption of an official resolution acknowledging Diwali.
Let us express together our respect and admiration for all those who celebrate Diwali throughout the world.
The Festival of Lights continued into Heritage Hall.
Not just the light that shines in lamps and in our houses, but the light that guides us towards truth, justice, and understanding.
Democratic leader Ranjiv Puri encouraged the community to practice the core focuses of unity and togetherness every day.
We're reminded that even in the darkest moments, good will always triumph over evil. That our purpose, both as individuals and as a society, is to keep that light alive.
Though the festival is popular among Hindus, Sikhs, and Jains, attendees say Diwali is for everyone.
Vasudeva Kutumbakam. It means the entire world stands together as one family, which is one of the core principles of the festival we're celebrating here today.
John V. Patel says it's the highlight of the holiday for her.
Anyone can celebrate Diwali, especially at our mandir. We have a lot of different groups and communities that come in, and we welcome them with open arms.
The group even invited the lawmakers who attended to participate in traditional activities like lighting the candles on the food offering.
Behind us we have the Ankud, which is a mountain of food to thank God for the past year and for the upcoming year to come.
And just like the celebration, the mountain of food was prepared through community collaboration.
And that's our show for this week. Thanks for watching the Capitol Rundown.